Aloha! This is Pipeline Audio for Kailua Music School. Pardon the background noise, this is a working school, and if people are in here practicing, there's going to be a little bit of noise, so whatever. So in this second video about critical thinking in audio, I'm going to talk about a phrase that strikes terror into the hearts of quacks, frauds, and marketing departments everywhere: the dreaded ABX test. You've probably heard the term ABX testing in discussions about audio on the internet or talking with salesmen, but maybe you're not that sure about what exactly it was, why you want to do it, and how it works. So hopefully by the end of this video you'll understand why the ABX test is such a valuable tool to add to your audio arsenal. So simply put, for our purposes, an ABX test is a tool used to compare two different signals. We can run an ABX test to determine if one signal sounds subjectively better than another, or we can use it to tell if there's even a difference between these two signals. Lots of times there won't be, and an ABX test can help confirm that. The ABX test works by having two different signals, we'll call them A and B, and playing one of them back at random as signal X. As you run the test, you try and determine whether signal X is actually signal A or if it's signal B. For instance, you could record a WAV file through some different audio cables and see if one sounds better than the other or if they sound different in any way at all. The ABX test in its most common form is a double-blinded trial. Double-blind means that neither the experimenter nor the test subject knows which signal they're actually listening to. In audio tests, the subject and the experimenter are often the same person, but this type of test works just as well for groups of people. The placebo-controlled, statistically significant, double-blinded test is the gold standard for medical research. The ABX test lets us get pretty close to that for audio testing. As I said before, human beings are really good at fooling themselves. The double-blinded nature of the ABX test can help keep us from fooling ourselves into hearing a difference where none really exists. There are some things to look out for when performing ABX tests that can easily lead you to false conclusions. First of all, when you're performing a test, you want to eliminate as many variables as possible so that you're actually performing an apples-to-apples test. As much as you can, you really want to narrow the test down to only a single difference so that you don't have to attempt to figure out later which difference it was that caused the perceptual change. A really big one here is volume differences. More often than not, given human nature and the way our ears work, a slightly louder signal is going to sound better to us than the same exact signal at a lower volume. This is such a major factor that stores commonly employ it as a trick. If they want to sell you a certain set of speakers, they'll turn them up just a tiny bit louder than the speakers they don't want to sell you. So many times you'll try a plug-in or a piece of gear that really doesn't change anything except for the perceived volume, and you'll choose it as better just for that reason alone. Another thing to watch out for is statistical significance, or in other words, running the test enough times that you get a meaningful result. If you only run the test once, you have a 50% chance of getting it right. You may as well flip a coin. This is the same principle that a broken clock is right twice a day, or maybe you heard it said as even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes. You'll usually want to run the test enough times that guessing at random would result in a 33% hit rate. In order to make really good decisions, you want to have a very high hit rate. Somewhere, usually it's spelled out as 95%, but if you do the test 10 times and you get 9 out of 10 right, you should be pretty confident in that result. So how do you actually do an ABX test? Back in the dinosaur era, we actually had to do this with hardware. It was a nightmare. You had to try to match volume levels perfectly with really inaccurate or maybe dirty knobs and all the pops and clicks of analog switching systems and just inherent unreliability of real-world gear. Thankfully, most of this type of testing can be done today with software, and usually it can be done with free software, which is an added bonus. The popular audio player Foobar has an ABX comparator. I'll put the link in the description. Lasinato software, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Has both a web-based and a downloadable ABX tester, link in the description again. But this one has the added benefit of being able to load more than 2 files. So if you're doing things like mic shootouts or other situations where you want to compare a number of products or devices at the same time, this is the one to get. So record some test sources, load them up in your ABX software, and happy ABXing till next time.